we are back and we are at the negotiation stage of sales stages. Again, some people sometimes mix negotiation with the proposal stage. This is the sales ops effect where we drive predictable growth in small to medium-sized businesses. That's why I like separating the negotiation stage out, is because depending on what kind of business that you've got, sometimes companies can spend a lot of time here. Potential clients can spend a lot of time here. And I like my stages split out so that I can look at the amount of time that is spent in each stage so that we can see where things are getting stuck and why. When you've got two different stages, in my mind, two different stages merged into one, then that doesn't really tell you the reason why it was in that stage for so long. You can go into the notes and you can say, oh yeah, it was about negotiation, but okay, how long did it take you to create a proposal and send it over? If on average it takes people like a week, then great. And then it was in negotiation for what, 8 weeks? How do we see that? How do we know that? How can we calculate it? Because I've helped organizations where they were sitting at, where were they? They were sitting at the proposal stage because they didn't have a true deal review stage. They pretty much mixed deal review and proposal stage together. And they were sitting in that stage. They had a very long sales cycle. It was about 18 months or so. They were sitting in that stage for 4 months. 4 months sitting in the deal review / proposal stage, right? So came in, cleaned a whole bunch of stuff up. The deal review stage now takes 2 weeks. The proposal stage is done pretty much immediately after that. So something that took 4 months with 2 stages together now, generally speaking, maybe takes 5 weeks tops. And that's the reason why I like to separate out the stages so that you can pinpoint where is the issue, because sometimes you can ask that question over and over and over again. And people, if they're not used to the language that you're talking with them in, as in this kind of corporate style language of sales stages and things like that, they don't know how to answer you. So you end up having to translate. But for my solo business owners, my micro businesses, your baby startups, again, language is completely up to you, but this is the reason why I like to separate out the sales stages. It might not seem like as if it's something that's important in the beginning, but when you're looking at, or you're having your sales ops person look at the metrics of the past to compare them, to look at your year-on-year numbers, you're going to want to see, okay, so we're now taking a very long time in negotiation stage. If there's so much negotiation that needs to be happening at this point, then that means we probably didn't fully flesh out this client, ask the questions that we needed to ask in the beginning. Now, obviously, that's not always the case. Sometimes things can happen, things can just happen in the world, and that causes delays, right? But that information tells you something, because we have these pipelines and sometimes you've just got tons of deals there, but they haven't moved for ages. And you have to dig into them to figure out the reason why. That is if people are updating the CRM in the first place with all of those notes. But if they're not, if you at least have the stages and people are at least updating the stages, then you've got that data that you can look at a macro level, to look at the numbers, to just say, it's been in this, deals on average, our average sales cycle is 40 days, let's say, or 60 days, let's say, right? So we spend 1 week here, we spend 3 weeks over here. The last negotiation bit is usually about 2 weeks. Sometimes it's negotiation, sometimes it's just sitting with the client. And so they're effectively negotiating internally. If you have all of those things there, then you can see really clearly at a glance even what's going on and why. Because the funnel shape, it's supposed to be big at the top and small at the bottom. I mean, ideally it'd be big at the top and big at the bottom, but that's not the way the world works, right? But when you've got these funnel shapes where it's big at the top and then it shrinks down and then it just gets really fat in the middle, then what you have is a lot of wasted money, because you've got a lot of people focusing on these same deals going around and around in circles. Or some of those deals have actually been closed lost, but your salespeople haven't taken them out the pipeline. The reason why it's still a waste of time and money is because the salesperson is still having to pay attention to that deal, to update the close date, to say, oh yeah, no, it hasn't actually closed yet. It's going to close in about 6 weeks' time. And so every single time they keep having to just push this thing out, they're just wasting time and money rather than just closing out and saying the reason why it was closed out and then just going after new deals. Get deals that aren't going anywhere out of the pipeline. If it's been lost, if it's closed not qualified, get rid of it so that we can see exactly what's going on. And then this negotiation stage, like I said, it could be negotiation internally for the client, and it could be in negotiations with you. And again, I know I've said it before, but I'll say it again. If there are tons of negotiation at this point, we probably didn't flesh out the client, ask the right questions enough early on. We don't want this to take longer than it needs to take. Sometimes it does take a little while, but we don't want it to take longer than it needs to take, because at this point, you're effectively working for them, but you're not being paid. The cost of this sale is going higher and higher and higher the longer the sales cycle takes, because that salesperson can't be in two places at the same time. They can't have another meeting with this client that's asking about their 56th point, as well as going out and sourcing new leads. You know? So I hope that makes sense. In our next sales stages episode, we'll be talking about the close stage. And that's not just one thing. So close is close one in my world. Close one, close lost, close not qualified. I have 3 different close stages instead of 2, and I have very good reason for that. So please do connect with me on LinkedIn. If you haven't checked out the new free resource available, which was the question and answer session, please go and find that. There'll be a link in the show notes. And do let me know if you have any questions in advance about the close stages. That episode will either be out next week or the week afterwards, because we've got another guest episode coming up. But I hope that was clear. If you have any questions at all or any comments at all, just let me know and we will catch up again next week. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please look at the list of other episodes. I'm sure there's another one that can help you. See you next time.